What is going on, guys? And today we are back, and we're going to do something a little bit different today. We're going to, I don't know if I'm going to call this a new series or kind of do some updates when this happens, because a lot of times, too, in tournaments, um, you don't get as short as we did in a couple of these spots. But what we're going to basically do today is we're going to kind of go over the concept that we've talked about when we interviewed a lot of the people with Surviving the Series about just not giving up in general. This is a tournament from a 25 USDT TORSE tournament on Phenom. There are 7 players left, and I believe, what was it? 3 people get paid. So, a couple things that I want to let you guys obviously watch is we're going to have some hands where, we can basically get all in, or should we decide to save our tournament life, we can decide to push equity versus, do we save chips getting near the bubble or not. But I want to go over some specific hands, especially like in the TORSE tournament, because obviously there's going to be different situations based on different games. I think mostly we're going to focus. I think there's one triple draw hand, a couple Raz hands, maybe a stud hand. We'll get into it and kind of look at it. But again, I want to go over the concept. If you're going to play a tournament, don't ever give up. There's one thing you should be pushing equity. It's fine to go bust early. I think Chris Fitch talks about this a lot. Like if you go bust on day one, or if you need to rebuy, like so be it. But there's also times when you shouldn't just throw your tournament life away. That's a little bit different. And there's definitely times in this video I think we can throw our tournament life away, but I think we do a relatively good job of kind of like staying patient and looking for some spots. So what we're going to do here is, again, based on some of the ranges, we're going to use the Phenom Replayer. You can kind of see how this one works. Also, at the same time, too, we're going to use Odds Oracle. I think this is the best with respect to ranges. So we're going to jump into the first hand right here. Let's see what the blinds are. I can't remember exactly. The bring-in's 250, so my guess is 1K. Yeah, okay, so it's 1K. And if we start by looking, we can see the dead cards over here with respect to Odds Oracle. Let me find my computer. We have the 8 of clubs and 3 clubs dead. Now, in game, I did have my head turned. I wasn't sure if this was going to be a 100% steal or not, because I knew there was one person behind me, but I didn't see what card it was. I think I was looking in the other direction, or something was going on. So I figured that this was going to be a relatively light steal. I'm not going to give my opponent here 100%. That does kind of change it a little bit, whether you should probably continue or not. I still think relatively, if your opponent here is opening a pretty wide range, probably continuing here is okay. And if we go over to Odds Oracle over here, we can basically see, like, we have plenty of equity theoretically to continue. We have to call 750 into 1750. We're definitely theoretically getting the right price. One of the main questions is playability going forward. I definitely think with 2 wheel cards, it's okay. And we can definitely kind of move forward going here, especially against a wide range. The range that I give my opponent here, I think is probably even like pretty snug relatively. Basically, 10 minus 10 minus deuce basically means he has 2 unpaired cards, 10 or under. He could have ace deuce 3, or he could have 10 9 deuce. Any sort of variation in there, but he doesn't have any pairs. Again, that's kind of a wide range because he probably does have some like deuce deuce ace combos, or something along those lines. You might even have a face card with an extra wheel card. We're not going to give him the full range at this point, but we're just going to kind of look at it generally and kind of make our assumptions. So start off this hand here. We do defend. These cards are going to muck in a second here, but the 8 and the 3 are dead. It is on us. As we can see, the action button is on us in the replayer, and we do call. And here on 4th Street, again, now only 3 people get paid and there's 7 left. So again, any spot that we think we're pushing relative equity, we should be doing it. Here we catch a 4 and the jack checks to us. This is a situation here. If he has like the normal, I would say like relatively, good range, and he should just be betting here. The 4 is a pretty good card for us. If he's paying attention and he doesn't have a 4 in his, if he has a 4 in his hand, like this would be a pretty good card for us as well. So, if he's got like Jack 10-9 or something like that, making a check here makes a little bit of sense. But again, if we go over to Pro Poker Tools and say, again, like kind of against that range, and once he checks, I definitely think like he's more along the lines likely to have this range, kind of given the fact that he checks to us. And we are pushing a little bit of equity in this situation. I also think, too, if like he's got a pair and he's got something else, we're going to put him in a tougher situation on later street. So, if this was a money bubble, I would consider checking back here. But again, I think pushing a little bit of equity against this range here, I think this bet is okay. Again, it's not like printing by any means, but I definitely think we're an equity edge. He does call. And on Fifth Street here, same type of thing. I mean, like now that we're drawing to an 8-5, I think we're doing very, very, very well against this range. And we are going to go ahead and we are going to bet again, and we're going to get called. Again, if we go over to Odds Oracle again, and we see that we put those 8s in, we have a ton of equity now in this situation here. Because again, like a lot of times he's going to be drawing at a 10 or a 9 or something worse than our draw. With 2 draws left, we definitely have the equity advantage in this situation. So we go ahead and bet, and we're going to get called again. And Sixth Street, it gets a little bit tricky now because obviously he's made a pair of deuces. I don't expect him. I mean, he definitely has a jack in the situation. The question is like, what's his draw? Because if he's got a, I expect him to have made a jack at this point. Part of me wants to theoretically like raise for value. But again, if we now look at our chip stack here, this is important because now we have basically one big bet behind. In a cash game, I actually thought at first that I might want to raise this one for value. The problem here is like deuces are cards that help me. There is an 8 and a 3 dead, but I do have an 8 and a 3, so that does help me a little bit, but the deuces hurts me, the fact that he has that in his hand. If we go over to Odds Oracle in this situation too, I think it's actually closer than I thought. We're pushing a slight edge here with our draw, but basically it's still like relatively a flip. There's also a chance too that, he just has a jack low and he's trying to get me to fold something here. Not that I'm folding anything kind of based off the way this is played out, but sometimes you're a little surprised to see like kind of what your opponent has here. But also too, if I miss this river and I make 2 pair, then I save my bet. I see people in this situation sometimes, like they're just like, all right, I want to push a little bit of the equity I have and just get it all in. We're not pushing enough in my mind to ever just kind of get it in this situation. Like you can save the bet. You're playing a stud game. Remember, we're playing TORSE. So basically the next 3 games are Raz, stud, and 8 or better. So the next 3 games, you're going to have an opportunity to basically like find an opportunity to get a full big bet in with antes in. If you miss in this situation. So again, I think this is another good spot to consider just calling and not giving up and then deciding what happens. So we call. And then on the river, we make the 5 of clubs and we have a king low. And basically, again, like based off what our opponent's doing here in this situation, like even if he's semi-bluffing and just betting a jack low, like say he makes 3 deuces and a jack low, I can't call with an 8. Because even in this spot, if we, again, go over to Odds Oracle and we put a 5 in and he still has a random card over here. Oops, I don't want to do that one. So he puts a 5 in. Now we... he should, okay, because basically what I want to do in this situation is if he continues when the 8 pairs, so the deuce, the jack, the 8, the deuce, the jack, the 8, and we don't think that he ever pairs those combinations, we have 0% on the river in this situation. He's got 100%, even if he's like bluffing with some sort of jack, we can't beat the king. Obviously, we can't raise in this spot. It would be an interesting spot to actually contemplate theoretically raising in this situation, but obviously at this point we just can't do it. We went for some value on some other streets. There's some arguments to be made, like maybe on a different street we like check, but I think like to like save it for value A's on the river. But again, I think we're just kind of pushing too much against what we consider like a wide range situation in this spot, and we do go for the value, and we do save our last big bet for extra hands, and that's what we're going to get into now, because this is how we got short, and then we're going to talk about the decisions, because now we're under one big bet, and there's other situations that we can just throw it in here, and we're going to start looking through those. All right, in the very next hand here in Raz, we get deuce 6-8. This is a situation with like one big bet. We're never going to even like just never not put our hand in here. Like this is just going to get in. But again, going back to the fact that we saved that bet, super important. Sorry, let's go back. But in this spot, we actually, I think we just stole it right there. So we picked up, we almost, get a full double in this situation right away. Because if you look at the dead money, there's 900 dead, not a full double, plus 300. Oh, sorry, there's 900. So we basically increase our stack by 50% just right away by saving it and stealing it pretty quick. So yeah, this one right here, this also with the deuce 5 queen and Raz. So this was a situation again where this one gets a little bit funky too. The 9 opens and we have 2 wheel cards. I think this is fine to attempt to go with the steal. Even with a bet, I think we got like a big bet and a quarter. We're going to get some folds here in this situation. And even if we get called, we have 2 wheel cards. There are 2 hands that theoretically can play behind us. Kind of looking at this hand, I think it's closer because, a lot of times they can just throw the money in. But I also think like theoretically going for it sometimes is probably worth it. Again, we're not on the money bubble. This is more talking about like the situations in which we want to I wouldn't say punt, because if we have 2 full bets here, I think throwing this probably like 4,000 chips, raising here is probably a mistake. I think they're going to call here too often. But we do open raise and we get a flat call, which he probably should just put us in. Like there's no question about that, unless he's trying to trap the 9, which I guess is possible, but doesn't seem too likely here. And then this is kind of the nightmare scenario. So our opponent here catches like really good. If he flat calls here, he's either got some sort of trap, or theoretically here he has just like, some sort of, I would say, weakish 3 card, maybe even like 10-9 or like 10-7, something along those lines. And if we go over to Odds Oracle over here, we again can basically see like once he bets this street, we need 17% equity to continue here, basically just to get it all in. I did the math in this situation here, and I think we're getting we're based on the price, we need to have 22%. So again, we're not getting the right price here. And this is a situation where, again, we were at 1950 and now we're going to leave ourselves short again. But throwing it away, again, is something that is just so easy to do in the situation. It's just easy to just click it, get it in, and kind of go to the next hand. But I just don't think we're going to have enough equity. If some reason here, had he had like 2-bet pre-flop and then caught an ace, it's just so much more likely in that situation he pairs it. I think if we actually go over to the table recording and say he like decides to 2-bet here, and we know that he's only 2-betting with maybe like a stronger range, so maybe like ace 8 minus 7 minus, and then the 8. So it'll remove the is this classic 8 minus 7 minus. Oh, I got 2 parentheses in there. That's why. There we go. So this will unpair the 8. Still kind of close. Again, see if we can find a maybe like 6 minus 5 minus, something along those lines. Again, if it's likely that your opponent paired, it should jump the equity up a little bit, but it looks like it's not going to do it that much in this situation. So no matter what happens here, it just looks like we're never going to be getting the right price theoretically to call, even the all-in. So we decided to, again, save our turn life and try to go to the next hand. Kind of look around here. Raz, obviously, ace 5-9 is just one we're going to just go with. Even with like 2 low cards, we just bring it in for the full amount. And the queen calls us. We do have to dodge it, but again, we do dodge it. We make a pretty good hand there. So again, we double up to 3,000. Not giving up. I think we fold this one. 2, 5, 9, 7 card stud. Unfortunately, this isn't routed because this is probably another one we would have went with, but we fold here. 5, 6, 9. Now we've made the final table. So again, 3 get paid. We are relatively short here, but again, we're just trying to kind of like hanging on at this point. Fold here. Queen 10-8 was one that we would consider going with because I think the blinds are up at this point. But again, we have a 10 dead, a queen dead. Anything basically at this point is going to relatively call us. So I elected to fold this one, especially in first position. Had it folded to us and we were against the 3, this would have been an easy open. But this one, we just give this one up. Let's go to the next one. 2, 5, 9 is nothing. Ace deuce 3 in some situations here, again, could be considered a steal. But it's just really hard in this spot, even with, I think the limits are still the same, but I'm pretty sure the person's going to limp in front of us, and we're just going to give this one up. I'm just going to kind of look for a better one. Yeah, it was heads up at this point, so. King Jack 3, kind of the same thing. We can consider maybe going, but I think we were the bring in, which definitely hurts us as well. But I don't think we can just like give this one up. There's a queen opening into another queen and another ace, so this range is pretty strong in this spot, I would say. There are some ICM dynamics going on, especially that were the low stack, but King Jack 3 is just not going to be good enough. Now we're going to go to stud 8 or better. Again, we have 1,650 the next hand. We do have split tens here. This is one that's just, this is just one that's going to get in. when we have the buried tens in this situation, we just have to go with it. The 2 brings it in for the full amount, and we get heads up, and I think we end up chopping this one. I can't remember, but again, a person open brings in like the queen 5 deuce, like definitely something to take notice of, especially later on, because if they're going to be bringing in full amount into the field with this type of hand, then they're probably going to make some ICM mistakes also at a later date. But we do make 3 tens, and we chop it, unfortunately. But all right, Jack 4 6 was nothing. Same thing here. We wait around. We pick up ace queen queen next. Sometimes you're just going to blind out, but sometimes you wait and you are able to survive it a little bit longer. I think we get the double up here. We did get the full double up. Kind of somewhat irrelevant, but we can just play it through. We're up against jacks and held. Next, now this is another good example, because now we actually have a little bit more. The blinds are up, so I think we're playing 1200. But this is a situation where stud 8, if you kind of look around and see what you have, this is a hand that looks very playable. I think we're at right just under 2 big bets. I think we're playing 1224. If we can kind of look at it here, just to go back. Okay, it's 16, so 32. So actually we're about a 1.5 big blinds. So we don't have basically 1.5 big blinds. We don't even have that at this point, because again, the big blind is 3,200. So yeah, 4,800 would be half, which means we're still under 1.5 big blinds. But again, stud game, you still have some maneuverability. We still have a couple hands left. Ace 9-6 definitely looks like a hand that we should go with. If we were shorter here, I think this is just one we have to go with. However, there's 2 spades dead. There is an ace behind us as well, and 2 other low cards. So I again decided to pass on this one. Again, if I had a king and a queen behind me, this would have been probably an easy steal. If I was the bring in, this probably would have been a call. But given the fact that I had to go through the field, I still think this was a situation in which I could probably pass on this one and go to the next one. And we do that. Now, in the next one, we pick up the 4, 5, 6, and we will kind of go over this one, because again, like, there's a big difference here between trying to make the money and trying to push your equity. We're still 3 off from the money, and we're the short stack. So this is a situation in which now we have 4, 5, 6. 3 brings it in. There are 4 dead low cards here. The 2 8s hurt us. The 3 hurts us. Obviously, it's kind of less likely that we make a straight. But in this situation against these ranges, I still think that we have plenty. Also here, we get to knock out the 3 if that's also going to be the case in this situation. And we'll take a look at Odds Oracle really quick. And if we pull up Odds Oracle over here, basically what I gave, this is our exact hand. These are the dead cards. I'm forgetting the 3 of clubs here in a second. 1 minute. There we go, 3 clubs. And then the first range here with the diamond is basically like flush draws, 8x, pairs, and some low cards. Third one, unpaired low cards, 8. This is not trips, and then deuces through 7s. I would expect our opponent here to raise a fair bit. As you can see when we get to showdown here, our opponent was actually a lot wider than this. So this is also one of the things that is going to weigh the decision. We can see over here that we're pushing about 37% against these ranges. 33 is the break even. Again, we want to push our equity, especially in these situations, and just kind of get all in and see the run out if we can. I also think too, like, again, there's not too much ICM consideration at all at this point because we are the short stack. We need to pick up some chips. And if our opponent over here, which I think was going to make a couple big relative like ICM mistakes here, like, this gives us the opportunity to exploit it as well. But at this point, with 3 people only getting paid, I think at this situation, it's just a very clear jam considering, the 8's opening and the 8's calling. So that's exactly what happens here. Pretty much this hand just kind of plays itself after. This hand was very nice in some fashions. We catch a 3. Everyone catches a good low card, but we're open-ended. We bank the 7 right away, and it just seals the deal. But one of the things we needed to take a look at, too, and one of the things we kind of glad we got to shut on against is our opponent here called the raise with either, most likely the combo here I would say is like Jack Queen 8 or Jack 6 8. And again, this isn't like the first hand of stud high, so I don't expect him to make that mistake. This is the 5th hand. We've been playing stud 8 for a fair bit. So again, like, our raise over here looking at Odds Oracle is even, like, better now given the situation. But let's see where we got. But now we have 15,500. So now we're sitting at about 5 big blinds. And we know for a fact that, we're kind of pulling even here with the 3rd place stack. And Chili over here has definitely made some, I would say, ICM mistakes at this point and playing some pretty wide hands. This is something that you just see in tournaments in general. You don't have to be playing a 10K World Series event, you can see mistakes like this being made in 1500s at the World Series, or even, like your normal 600 mixed games, or even like consistently. So this is just something to obviously watch and take advantage of. We just fold here, not here, deuce 7 triple draw, same kind of thing. Fold this one in the big blind, fold this one in the small blind. Okay, so our opponent over here did get knocked out, and now it becomes a little bit more ICM aware, I would say, because we have the two big stacks directly on our left, and we have the short stack directly on our right, and then Chili definitely has been playing a few hands that he shouldn't have been playing, given this dynamic. So again, thinking about like ICM considerations is now coming into play, and like the 3-6-7 here would have been kind of an interesting one against Chili, I'd say, in like maybe a cash game, because he's probably playing too many hands. But we're just gonna fold this one with 2 players behind. Obviously we're not having a deuce. 3-4-7 really would have been a tough one here, and it does raise, but we're just gonna go to the next one. He does lose that hand too, so now he's basically pulled even with us, and we do have Millpool on the right here, a little bit shorter than us. So this is one that we just are going to have to go with. We're playing against Chili's big blind. We're in position with a 1-card 8 draw. So if Mill raised, we would have 2-bet. If he folds, we are going to go for it here and open. Because again, we can't just fold to the money at this point. Like there's an argument, if they both had like 1,000 chips, could we just theoretically fold to the money? There's an argument to be made in some capacity, but we just have to play our hands at this point still. When we get our relatively big hands, 1-card draw is going to be a good one. He takes 2, and we take 1. Pretty clear, like, bet. Also here we've seen a pair. Obviously it helps us. He takes 2 again. We're going to take 1 again. And I think we're going to pair again. We're going to pair the 3. Also, again, there is some consideration to checking back in this situation, again, to theoretically save us from, our tournament life. But seeing like some of the mistakes that Chili's made so far, I would say that 1, your draw is going to be so good here. 2, he might just fold a draw 2. And 3, I really want to go for the value to try to pick up the chips in this situation. If we miss, because like a lot of times on this river here, if I check back and he draws 2 again, I'm going to feel pretty bad. He might also take 2 again, and we're drawing 1, which is a pretty good situation for us as well. If I caught like ace, 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 I might check that one back, but we've caught 3-3 at this point. So again, it removes some of the card removal. So I do go. I'll elect to go for the bet here, but I can also see the case, honestly, for like theoretically checking here. It's some bet to like try to save us again, to keep us like this extra 1,200, because on the river here, if we check and it goes like say 1-1, and then it goes check, we just kind of play in position. We might save ourselves 5,000. But I also thought that his range was just relatively so wide that we probably going to have to just go for the bet anyways. I think this is a situation in which you want to consider actually checking back on, given like again the tournament dynamics, but I think there's just too much value here, kind of seeing what I've seen so far. So I do elect to go for the bet, and we call. And then this is kind of like the situation which it really matters, and we catch a 9 here on the river, and this is a very, very, very nutty card for us. Again, given the pot size here and giving our bet size, we should be going for very thin value here, I think, in some situations, like probably even betting like jack. But now, like at this point when he checks, like a 9 is just really, really nutty. So we go for the value bet and get it all in, and he just folds. So he obviously made a pretty bad hand. But now again, the tournament dynamic has totally changed, because now we have 22,000, and then both players on our right are relatively short. And we'll just kind of go through. We fold under the gun there, and then both players get knocked out, I think, the very next that hand. So now we've actually made the money. So again, one of these situations where it's super important to just kind of like hang around and try to get there, and just never giving up. I think the other thing too is let's go. I think there's one last hand that we're going to see here. I don't think it was this one. I think we just check folded flop, Raz. No, it wasn't this one. Okay, this is it right here. So again, the theory basically is the situations in which we want to make sure we're relatively saving the bets. If we think like, again, it preserves our tournament life and not just throwing it away. So here, pretty standard hand for the most part. 3 card 6 and Raz. We have a huge hand, and we're gonna open it against Ridiculous here in his 10. There is a deuce dead, so he calls. And this is important. Again, we've talked about like range construction going forward. So we have a wide range here. And his range is obviously tighter, but I mean, our range is pretty wide. We don't have 100% range. It's, if we had the ace over here, we probably do have close to 100% range, just going for the steal. But with a deuce behind us and, the 10 is somewhat playable, like we can't just open 100%. So even if we kind of look at what the distribution looks like in this situation here, we need to be cautious about like how we are going forward here. He catches a 7, which probably not too many combos of like 7s in his calling range. Maybe like a7, deuce 7 is possible. So let's start here. So we bet when we catch the 8. Again, we want to go for value here too when we have it. We make a 8 low with a 6 redraw, and then over here, Ridiculous, he catches an ace. Now, again, it's really important here in this situation because when we bet our hand, if he calls here, he doesn't make a pair. If we have 100% range, it's kind of icky for him if he's got like a 10 draw and a pair. It probably depends on what pair he makes, but we don't have 100%. So usually in this situation, like we've either got some sort of made hand at this point, or we have a draw to an 8. So when we bet here, I expect some folds, and if he calls in this situation, I actually expect him to have a draw at a 7. It's possible he could have a draw at an 8. It's reasonable, but I would expect more like he's got like 10 and 2 babies in the hole. Now, if he does actually have a 10 draw and like a 7 redraw in this situation, and he thinks I'm relatively wide, let's go over to Odds Oracle. We can actually see that his hand has now become the favorite. So he really has to like make a relative read, because like if my range is wide here, and again, I'm not even doing 100%. If I have something along the lines of like, again, I give myself basically 10 minus 9 minus ace, which I think is fine without the pairs. I could also have something like split aces with an extra wheel card. I think that also makes a good combination. Blocking my opponent's continuing range on this board, say like even 5-5 ace in the hole. So, when he has the ace 10 7 here, I mean, like his hand is close to a raise, or just actually even like definitely a raise when I lead into him, depending on how wide he actually thinks I am. Now, given the tournament dynamics, I'm not going to bet in this situation here without it. Like, I think actually this would be a good combination to go for a check raise with. But honestly, I thought he was going to pair this ace so much that I just wanted to bet and kind of protect the pot at this point and protect my hand. So, I mean, also there's like a deuce dead, so, it removes some of the deuce combos as well. I think I just wanted to try to like protect my hand going forward in this situation versus going for check raise. But this would be this would be a really good spot to consider doing it with. But we do elect to bet, and he doesn't raise, he just calls. So again, at this point, I don't think he's paired. Now, this next street here was kind of frustrating for me, because when he catches this 6, I don't think he's paired the ace. I don't think he's paired the 6, plus we have in our hand. And I wanted to go for a check back if given the opportunity. But unfortunately, Ridiculous doesn't give me that opportunity. He just leads right into me. Now, that doesn't mean he can't have a pair in this situation, like a pair of 6s. But it also just means that, like, again, we're going back. It's just so easy in this situation to just raise and get it in. Just say, like, whatever, I'm done with it. But if we call 6th Street here, if we call 6th Street here, and then we call 7th Street with the 8, which that's my plan. I'm not folding at this point with the 8-6, because he also could have just like 8-7 in the hole, right? So it's possible. But when this hand plays out like this, if I call 6 and call 7th, I still leave myself an extra 1,200 chips behind. So again, it's pretty easy to just throw it in there and just say, whatever at this point. Like, I'm going to be relatively short to these guys. But I don't think that's a tournament situation you can just do, especially kind of given the read that we have in this spot. We definitely have to call anyways, because, we have a 6 draw. But obviously this is a pretty bad card. River, we get no improvement, and he leads into us. And we do call and leave ourselves an additional 1,200 behind. And he does show us the bad news. Again, this is like kind of the reshuffle. He's never got a 10 in the hole. He started with deuce 3-10, which makes total sense. And unfortunately, I don't think I can find the fold button there. Like, I definitely thought about this afterwards, you know, basically saying everything that I said. Could you ever find the fold button here in this spot? I mean, like, I have so many bad hands in my range. Well, that's not true. I don't have so many bad hands here, but if we go back to, say, Fifth Street, um, you know, at this point, like, I do have some bricks in the hole. I do have, like, pairs. I do have some worse draws, you know, than he does, or worse made hands at this point. So, you know, those are the situations where I think I can just, like, one, give up, or, you know, two, yeah, just basically give up and save my tournament life. But I think I have to find a call down here with this specific combo. And if you're folding here, I think you're just folding too much. Again, like, at this point, you know, if we get to the, if we get here, right, and we find a fold with, if we had, like, the bricks and he doesn't have the bricks, we save ourselves 9,000. It's workable. But with our specific hand here, and here's, like, also the problem, right? If we get to this river here and we fold and we save ourselves 5,000, you know, it's a little bit more of a workable stack. But if we call here and we pick off the bluff, I mean, we're going to pick up an extra almost 30,000 in chips and be at about 34, 33,000. And it's very workable in this situation now. Like, everyone's kind of equal in stacks. And there's no ICM pressure because I'm the short stack. So this is a spot where I think you just have to kind of, like, bite your teeth, call, and just be like, you know, is there a chance here that he just, like, paired the 6, or, like, kind of had, like, the 8-7 in the hole and decided to bet the 8-7. I think it's possible, but it's kind of unlikely. Anyways, we do call, and we get shown the bad news with the deuce-3. But again, we have the 1,200. We're not just giving away just yet, which is kind of ironic because we do get in here with the jack-6-4, and we do double up again. Queen 8-6 we didn't. And I think we get to 7-card studs, so now there's some, I don't think we play this one. King 3-4, kind of the same thing. We're just going to get in. Oh, we do go for the steal here with the King 3-4. And we get called by the 7-9-3, and we actually double up there. And then the very next hand, this is our last hand. You can see 79 and 79. Not too much to say in this situation here. We have the 6 up. We have an ace in the hole against 2 5s. This is a spot we're just going to attempt to steal. Basically, the big blind at this point is 5,000. We have under one big bet. So this is a spot where, again, we're just going to try to take it if we can get it. But unfortunately, we do run into Ridiculous's ace, king, 5 of diamonds, and we get busted. So anyways, kind of a cool spot, kind of a cool different dynamic to look at these tournament situations, because now, you know, Phenom having tournaments, it gives us the opportunity to not only go over tournaments where we've been kind of going over cash games for a whole year, but, you know, we can look at different situations where we would play these things a little bit differently in tournaments. And I've been saying that in my videos now for over a year, but this is actually a situation where, you know, it kind of changes the dynamic now a little bit, given some ICM pressures. And even though, you know, a lot of these tournaments we're playing is right now, there's, you know, basically anywhere from like 20 to 100 people. But again, it just changes it and gives you a good opportunity to practice in certain different situations and dynamics. If you think I should have played these hands any differently, feel free to comment and leave them below. If you like this format, I will try to do my best to kind of look at different situations and playing hands and tournament dynamics. And sometimes, you know, you just get short and you're able to go from like basically like half of a big bet, you know, basically with if they're paying 3 and there's 7 left, kind of nursing that short stack and kind of playing it, I would say, more correctly than not. But anyways, yeah, questions, comments, or feedback. If you think I played terrible, let me know. And then until the next one, good luck at the tables. Play well. We'll talk to you soon. Play well. Bye-bye.